may be good politics, but it certainly is bad economics. The Vasundhara Raje government in Rajasthan has now joined the loan waiver bandwagon in a move that could cost the state's exchequer a whopping 20,000 crore rupees. Remember, after Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra, Rajasthan is the third BJP-ruled state to officially announce a farm loan waiver. That too at a time when the state is staring at a huge financial crisis.
Indeed. So is there competitive populism that one after another Indian state is succumbing to? Who does a farm loan waiver really help? Because nearly 36% of marginal farmers don't even have access to institutional credit. Is public investment the biggest casualty of a farm loan waiver, or is it justified in the name of tiding over immediate rural crisis? But the biggest question of them all, in a run-up to 2019 elections, will India see many more waivers? In fact, the fear is, will we see 2008 repeat itself all over again? I'm Supriya Srinath in New Delhi. With me in Mumbai is Sandeep Gurumurthy. Waive the waiver is what we put the spotlight on the India development debate this evening.
It's good politics over bad economics yet again. Vasundhara Raje's government in Rajasthan has become the latest to join the debt waiver bandwagon. The northern state now joins Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh to write off farm loans, although several other states like Punjab are considering such an option. Together, the write-offs by the three states will cost the exchequer over 90,000 crore rupees. But is the loan waiver the best way to address the farm distress? Experts say loan write-offs, apart from leaving a big dent on the economy, will also weigh heavy on banks in the long term, leading to a bad credit culture. And the scene is only getting worse. According to Bank of America Merrill Lynch, the total loan waiver could cross 2.57 lakh crore rupees in the run-up to 2019 general elections, with Finance Minister Jaitley making it clear that the centre will not chip in. The move could push states to the brink, forcing them to go slow on development and social sector projects. Ironically enough, loan waivers hardly help the farmers' cause, with bulk of the funds failing to reach the targeted segment. And past experiences show such write-offs have had hardly any effect in curing the farm distress. And it's a double whammy for banks that are already reeling under the bad loan mess. So is it about winning votes at the cost of the economy? Maybe these chief ministers have an answer. Debating that on the India Development Debate.
Joining us on the show this Friday evening on the India Development Debate, we've got Devinder Sharma, agriculture expert, Maithili Busnuman, consulting editor of ET Now, R. Jagannathan, editorial director of Swaraj magazine, and Hitesh Jain from the BJP, and Mohammad Khan from the Congress. We're going to open with the politicians on the show this evening. Hitesh Jain, this is not something that we expected from the BJP government when it was voted to power in 2014. 3 loan waivers. You're doing what the Congress has been doing for years now. What's going on? Are these state governments trapped in the politics of competitive populism?
I don't think a complex subject like this should be looked only from one angle of loan waiver, but we should look it from the basket of the entire steps that have been taken to boost the agricultural sector. Apart from this, if you want to see, you have to see the budgetary allocation that has been made by the central government for the farmers' welfare, the budgetary allocation made by the central government for the agriculture welfare. This year, whopping 57,000 crore budgetary allocation.
All know what the government has done as far as the farm sector is concerned. Hitesh Jain, let's get down to specifics. We are debating the farm loan waiver, and we believe and we are questioning whether does it at all do any good to the farmer and the damage that it's inflicting on the economy.
But I think you should not see. You cannot just look from one end. Your sister channel yesterday, Mirror Now, was mocking the government that you are looking at the bullet train and you are not giving the loan waivers to the farmer. So, different people have a different take. Ultimately, we cannot just look agriculture sector purely from the loan waiver,
whether it makes a good economic sense or a bad
economic sense, or whether it's a populist sense. Basically, you have to look at
now, and we're going to back for the cause of Indian economy, for Indian development, and which is why the question to you. You know, I mean, just for our viewers
Okay,
and
so
also for our
from the,
Hitesh Jain, I must clarify that we at ET now actually batted for the cause of bullet trains yesterday. We believe bullet trains should happen. That debate cannot be binary between safety and bullet trains. So we batted for your cause yesterday, but today we will question you because this is bad economics. Mohammad Khan, I'm going to throw this to you. I know the BJP will justify it. It's 3 state governments are now doing it, but so are yours, Punjab and Karnataka. My real question is, when will this competitive populism stop?
Well, it's not populism, and you have to look at this from within an economic manner. The manner that the BJP is doing it, which is a half-measured, ad hoc, knee-jerk reaction to a failing rural economy, then yes, loan waivers exact their pound of flesh from the state finances. As Mr. Arun Jaitley himself said, when he said that the centre will not bail out the states. However, loan waivers, when the Congress did them, were part of a larger strategy. The 1 lakh crore loan waiver, which was given in 2008, was followed by a large self-help group program. I remember this because I was at the Ministry of Rural Development at the time, and we dedicated a significant chunk of resources to empowering these people who are working in the agricultural sector to set up these SHGs. The returns on these SHGs were marvelous, and the data is there in the public domain for everyone to see. The second thing you must understand about loan waivers is, if you do not help the farmers sustain an alternative means of livelihood, aka, for example, Manrega, then you will face a problem because it creates a cycle of debt. Right? That's why there is criticism. A loan waiver must be followed by other rural economy strengthening mechanisms, which this government fails at, because it has, and here I must make a political point, because it is, as Hitesh Jain ji will no doubt rebut, staffed by people spectacularly unqualified to do their jobs. Now, I want to say this. If you guys had done this loan waiver well, I would still have said, well done. But yesterday, all the Hindi newspapers in Uttar Pradesh reported that the loan waiver in Uttar Pradesh is a farce. People are being given loan waivers of 23 rupees, 43 rupees. They have published lists. And this is a subject that echoes with the rural masses. So this was on the front page of all of these papers. So I don't know what loan waiver they are implementing, but certainly no comparison to ours.
Fair enough. Okay. So now we're going to end up debating a good farm loan waiver versus a bad farm loan waiver. I don't know if there is something like that at all. Maithri, let me take it to the experts on the panel. Maithri, you go first. Is there anything called a good farm loan waiver the Congress is talking about, which happened in 2008 versus what's going on right now? And you know, we will talk about the economic impact of this a little later in the show, Maithri. But first, the more basic question, fundamentally, does it do good to the Indian farmer?
Not at all. In fact, there can be no economic justification whatsoever, and there is no question of a good farm loan waiver and a bad farm loan waiver. Farm loan waivers are bad, period. And they are bad at both at the micro level and at the macro level. They do no good to the farmer because it penalizes a good farmer who perhaps at considerable sacrifice has repaid his loan. So you penalize those who actually repay their loan and reward those who don't repay their loan. Not all of whom perhaps are not paying because they are unable to pay. Some of them may not be unable and may not be able, and some may be able. But because they know there's a waiver that is coming, they don't pay the banks. At the macro level, it is bad for the farming community because banks as a result start lending less to agriculture because they fear a future loan waiver. It is bad for the banks because they take huge losses. It is bad for the state governments because their fiscal deficit increases, and as a result they cannot spend on other essential things, including for the farming community. So there can be no economic justification whatsoever. So I think there is no question of a good farm loan waiver and a bad farm loan waiver. They're all bad, and the Congress and the BJP are equally irresponsible in this matter.
All right, equally responsible, both spokespersons. That's the word coming in from some of our experts here. But Devinder Sharma, I'm going to throw this to you. Maithri Busturmat says, whether it's good farm loan waiver or it's bad, in totality, this is not on. Farm loan waivers are not to be done. They are bad, whether it is well implemented or not well implemented. What's your take on that?
Well, at the very outset, let me make it very clear that it is not only good politics, it's also good economics. And I don't want to look into whether this was done nicely or not. That's a different issue. But let me make it very clear that the farmers of India deserve a bailout and deserves a waiver. You know, when we gave it to the corporates, it is economic growth. That's what the economic advisor had told us, that when you write off the loans for the corporates, it becomes economic growth. I don't understand when you write off the loans of the farmers, why it is not economic growth. Why it becomes a kind of it will disrupt the balance sheet and so on. Why is it that the corporate loans never create problems for the balance sheet, or is it not credit indiscipline? You know, Credit Suisse Bank tells us that 11 50,000 crores is going to be the NPA by the end of March next year. And I think all the governments would be trying is to write off that loan. The total loan that the country farmers are carrying on with them, or outstanding loan today, is 12.60 lakh crore. And I think we need to write off the entire loan burden that the farmers have. The reason is simple. For last 5 decades, we have sucked the farmers of this country. And we have deliberately kept the farmers impoverished. And that is the result that the farmers today is overburdened. He is taking credit. If you look at the Economic Survey 2016, it tells us very clearly that the average income of the farming family in 17 states of India, which is half the country, is only 20,000 rupees a year. Now, what do you want that man to do? If he has the credit on his head, why shouldn't the government write it off? And why do you always feel happy? The government feels very happy when you write off the corporate loans. Why 81,000 crores has been written off by 2016, 2017? Nobody questioned. And what is this 90,000 crores that we are worried about?
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Wow,
Devinder Sharma, we wanted to address the point, and I'm glad you brought it up front. Let's address the elephant in the room. Jaggi, I'm going to come to you, and then I'm going to come to you, Maithili, because I knew this was going to be brought up. You know, when you restructure a corporate loan, you call it a haircut. When you restructure, or when you look at a farmer loan, you call it a waiver. The Prime Minister spoke about it at an ET's Global Business Summit, saying that, you know, incentives to corporates are called, you know, as incentives, or whereas if it's to a farmer, you call it a subsidy. The mindset needs to be changed. Jaggi, how are you going to counter the point that Devinder Sharma made, saying that why are these double standards there as far as economic governance is concerned? Jaggi.
I mean, to some extent he is right, but it's still a political point. The point about when you write off a bad loan of a business, presumably if you are selective and that business the loan had to be written off because of business failure, then the reasons are entirely different than when you're writing off a crony loan who first of all got a loan that he was not entitled to and then ran off with it and siphoned it off, and then the loan is written off. That is a criminal thing. Okay, if you were similarly selective in the case of farmers, and you say only the case of farm failures where there are specific reasons for farmers to fail a loan, and if you write those off selectively or reschedule them, then it is fair to compare the two. Here what you are talking about is a selective loan waiver in the case of business failure, and you are comparing a general write-off. There is a huge difference. And don't forget, the days of crony capitalism are actually coming to an end. In which decade have we seen business after business being sold off because they have to repay bank loans? I mean, you have seen the Ruyas, you have seen the JP, even now one after the other, GVK, GMR, I mean every single one has had to give up one business or the other, and they are being reduced and cut down to size. Even the Tatas are being forced to sell a big company. One Ambani company has come close to default, and actually he has to give up a lot of his assets in order to get this. So you are seeing this happening. So now to say that, okay, because of all these wrong things happen in the corporate sector, more wrong things should happen. One last line. If you had to write off 2.7 lakh crores, just think if the 2.7 lakh crores were used for building agriculture related productivity, including irrigation and other things, just see how much more agriculture would benefit rather than just writing it off, because 2 years back you are going to be back in the same situation.
Okay, I get your broad points there. I'm not going to dispute that. But Maithili, I will ask you to respond to Mr. Devinder Sharma and add on to what Jaggi has already said. Just to also tell our viewers here that, you know, businesses are being sold also because of business cycles. I mean, business cycles haven't picked up. If left to the corporates and if left to the banks, they weren't paying back. They were just restructuring their loans. They were having a party when the banks were suffering. When people like, you know, my tax money was being thrown behind bad loans that the corporates, that was on the account of corporates, not just farmers alone. So I do want you to respond to the point that Mr. Devinder Sharma made, but also take it from the Prime Minister. The fact that he says when it's done for the corporates, it's interest subvention. When it's done for the farmers, it's subsidy. There is a mindset change that's required. And, you know, he is the tallest leader in this country right now who's speaking on this.
No, well, Jaggi is bang on, because what you do in the case of corporates, you do not give a blanket waiver. It is very different where you come to the aid of specific corporates where the business decision has gone wrong, where the macro environment has changed, where the coal allocation has been changed, spectrum allocation maybe has been a change. So these are very specific cases of business failure. And as Jaggi mentioned, in the process of restructuring, the promoters also take a hit. Agreed, in the past, maybe they were getting away scot-free or not entirely scot-free, but now they are feeling the pinch. Unlike in the case of the farm loan waiver, where everybody across the board gets a waiver. In fact, the Tamil Nadu High Court had said that you cannot pick and choose. They said the waiver should be given to all. And unlike what Davinder says, the small farmer actually does not get a farm loan, because to get a farm loan, even though agriculture is a priority sector area, it is only farmers who are able to offer some kind of collateral, who are able to repay the loan, and not the genuinely poor, distressed farmer. They typically go to the money lender or to the informal sector. So they in fact do not benefit from the farm loan waiver at all. It is rather the better off farmers who benefit. So there is no way really of ensuring that those who genuinely deserve the farm loan waiver get it. A far better way of doing it, if you really feel there are some distressed areas, distressed farmers, is to give them income support, but let them repay the loan, because this way you're vitiating entire credit culture, and in the whole process you're trying to correct two wrongs by another wrong.
All right. That's the point, really. Devinder Sharma, comment on this before I throw it back to the politicians on the panel. Maithili made the point about the fact that the marginal poor farmer isn't really benefiting. 36% of farm loans to small and marginal farmers are with people who don't have access to any form of institutional credit. So they're not even going to be covered by these farm loan waivers. It's the big farmers who typically stand to benefit from this government largesse. So who is it really helping, Devinder Sharma?
Yeah, before I answer this, let me first look at a broader question that has been thrown up. You know, when we talk about the NPAs of the corporate, we always say there are macro environments, there are problems, in international trade and so on and so forth. Look at it. First, we had 2 years of consecutive 2 years of back-to-back drought. It was followed by demonetization. There are floods in several parts of the country. Now we are being told 256 districts of the country are staring at a drought in the years to come, in the months to come. Now please tell me, in the last 3 years, this is the situation in India, as far as farmers are concerned. Now doesn't he deserve a loan waiver? Isn't this a situation justifying enough for him to justify the loan waiver? And we always say macro environment for the corporates. What macro environments? We have given them since 2004, 2005, 55 lakh crores of tax exemption. And they have not performed. Where has that money gone? 55 lakh crore of tax exemption. Money saved is money earned. So they have saved money and this has gone into their pockets. Neither the industrial output has gone up, nor the exports have gone up, nor job creation has been done. Where has that 55 lakh crore gone? And then on top of it, we have given ease of doing business. 7,000 steps have been taken, as Nirmala Sitharaman said. Despite all these things, they still have a huge bad loan problem. 11.5 lakh crore. Please tell me, did Merrill Lynch ever study how much is going to be the impact on the GDP by this 11.5 lakh crore? They only do it for the farmers. Look at this double standard that these credit rating agencies also perform.
Okay, double standards, not just of experts, but credit rating agencies as well, says Devinder Sharma. I think, Jaggi, you want to make a quick point there, and then I want to move on to the politicians.
Yeah, there are 2 points. One is he's talking about tax benefits for industry. I certainly agree that they should not get any special. Let's not forget, for 70 years, agriculture has been tax-free. Every single input has been subsidized. You talk about power, diesel, fertilizer, seeds, any single thing you ask, everything has been subsidized. If after all this agriculture is unviable, are you still going to do that? I am saying instead of farm loan waivers, I would say that even if you had spent 20,000 crores and given a universal crop insurance scheme, whereby no questions asked, if there is a crop failure, you lose your crop for flood or drought or whatever reason, you are immediately compensated for it. That would have been a far better solution. You could have even given a free crop insurance scheme which is universal and simple. It is far better than trying to give a 90,000 crore waiver and then adding it up slowly state by state to 2.7 lakh crore. It is ridiculous. I mean, it will not solve the problem, it will make the problem worse. This is what you need to do. You are not doing that. Why don't you do that? I mean, this is one subsidy I would support, where you say universal crop insurance for everybody, satellite based. Your farm is gone, fine, here's your money directly in your Jan Dhan account. That's the way to do it. Instead of that, we are talking about things. The farming is unviable. You got to get people out of the farm, not keep giving them more subsidies so that they struggle and fail and keep failing more. You have to get people out. You need an IBC for farms.
Right, that's a fair point you're making, and I think we will talk about what the government needs.
No, you got to monetize the one asset they do have, that is land.
Sure, and we will talk about what the government needs to do. But let me now bring in Hitesh Jain and Mohammad Khan. Hitesh Jain, it's evident you sort of read out a list of efforts that the government has taken in terms of improving the health of farmers, but clearly it's had no impact whatsoever, and which is why the BJP government in all these states has opted for the easy way out. Announce a farm loan waiver in the hope that it will give you votes, and it probably won them a great mandate in the UP. People say, one wouldn't know for sure. But, the fact of the matter is, from a pure economic argument, and you've heard all our panelists here, it does little good to the farmer. It does a lot of damage to the economy as a whole, and specifically to the marginal farmer. The point that we made a short while ago, with 36% of farmers having no access to institutional credit, the marginal farmer is in any case not going to be impacted by these farm loan waivers.
Well, you're asking the same question now in a different form, and therefore my answer is that you should not look at only from the farm loan waiver, but you have to look at where we are, the steps being taken by the central government along with the state governments to build the ecosystem for the agriculture. Say for example, we are talking about irrigation. Lot of steps have been taken. Close to 8,40,000 hectares have been brought under micro irrigation. As far as 7.5 lakh soil cards have been distributed. 9.4 crore kharif crop insurance has been provided. Coupled with that, you have to look at Jan Dhan accounts, where the accounts have been opened for the people for the precise reason so that they get an access to the institutional credit. Along with that, you are seeing the direct benefit transfer so that the money actually, all the subsidies and everything, they actually reach out to the farmer instead of getting lost in the middle system. So therefore, the point that I am making, that the legacy which we have inherited for 70 years, you saw that from 2004 to 2014, the Swaminathan committee report was lying on the table, that was generated by the Congress government itself, and they did not take any steps. Another important step that has been taken by the government is for the linkage of the rivers, now which is now being taken in the full process. According to me, improving the health of agriculture sector also means improving the health. It is implicit to improve the health of farmer, and it augurs well for economic growth. If the agriculture sector does well, the economy will do well, and you will see the job creation and also the increase in GDP numbers that will be driven by the agriculture sector. Now you saw the numbers in the budget that were laid out 2016-2017. We had record increase of 4.4% in the agriculture production. So in all these things, when you look at this thing, I don't think this loan waiver should be looked only from the political angle, but you should look at as steps taken by the government, well-meaning in the interest of the economy. And as far as the Congress spokesperson, whatever he said, let me say his comments do not deserve any comment. He can be snidey and he can do this BJP versus Congress. A serious issue which can
No, I understand Hitesh Jain.
Congress does.
I get your point. Snidey comments or not, I will still go to Congress to get a reaction. For 1 second, hold on. I will go to Congress and get a reaction, because it looks like no matter what the two of you say, two of you are on the same side of this debate. You are both supporting what is a farm loan waiver, which is irresponsible economics, and I'm telling both you and the Congress here, and you are on the same side of the debate, whether you like it or not. But Mohammad Khan, I have a very simple question to ask you. I'm taxed, I think my taxes are way too high. I am taxed at more than 30%. Why should my tax money be put behind bad money? Why should all my money be put to write off loans? I mean, that's a very valid argument that some of us will ask.
However, I was listening to Maitri ji and Jagannathan Saab, and there were a couple of things they said that I want to respond to. Other than, of course, Hitesh Jain ji's reading of the agricultural summary available on the Modi app, I think Maitri ji, you must understand, I'm sure you'll agree with the fact that it's very seductive to talk about laissez-faire and animal spirits when we're talking about the corporate world, right? You want minimal government intervention, you believe in the free hand of you believe in the wisdom of the entrepreneur, so on and so forth. But that same degree of trust is not vested when it comes to farmers. And this brings me to my second point. Farmers don't enjoy the kind of protections in terms of legal protections, indemnities and so on and so forth, that farmers don't enjoy those protections vis-a-vis corporate entities. I mean, I don't think any promoter is held liable unless he signs a personal guarantee to a bank. And and he's therefore able to sustain his lifestyle even after he has to enter into an agreement with the government to pay off his loan or take a haircut. And the other thing I want to say to Jagannathan Sahab spoke about crop insurance. Well, this government, if Hitesh Jain ji had read the Wikipedia page instead of the Modi app page, he would have found that his government launched the Fasal Bima Yojana, which is a crop insurance scheme 2 years ago. And Jagannathan Sahab, do you know how many people, how many farmers as a percentage are covered under that? Less than 20%, despite the scheme being in operation for 3 years, 20 to 23% depending on different estimates. These farmers don't have this kind of security that these people do. Now, finally, you made a point about land, that the biggest asset that a farmer has is land. But that's not true. In 2013, the UP enacted a law to rectify this. The UP enacted the Land Acquisition Act 2013, which for the first time gave the farmer the right to consent whether his land can be acquired or not. Because as you know, farmers are often at the receiving end of large-scale acquisitions. However, the BJP government in 2015 sought to amend that to take that right away. So I think, Mr. Jain, you should educate yourself on your government.
Land laws would have certainly ensured there would have been no industrialization that would have happened.
No, first please answer from 2004 to 2014.
Go ahead, Hitesh Jain, make your point.
No, Mr. Mohammad Khan, can you please answer why you did not implement your own? No, Mr. Mohammad Khan, can you please answer from 2004 you had the Swaminathan Committee report for the betterment of the agriculture sector. Why did you not implement your own report, which your own government had initiated?
In May, when farmers were committing suicide, you know what their demand was? Their demand was to implement the Swaminathan Committee, which you had promised in your manifesto, Hitesh Jain Sahab. And what does the Swaminathan Committee say? It says you will give MSP plus 50.
Well,
but you stood up in the Supreme Court, your Attorney General. No, you haven't. Because the Attorney General stood up, and as a lawyer, you should know this.
Hitesh Jain, Mohammad Khan, we want to have some... Okay, point noted. I don't want this to be a political debate. You know, it's an irony that both of you ideologically clearly agree to the point, to farm loan waivers, right? And I know it's impossible to have both of you agree on anything on national television, but ideologically, you agree to farm loan waivers. So let's get down to the substantive discussion on farm loan waiver and what is the economic cost of a farm loan waiver. And I want to go to Mr. Devinder Sharma and pick up the point that Maithili made on the fact that farm loan waivers vitiate the credit cycle discipline in many ways. And here's some data. The CAG report of FY12 says as far as inclusion of ineligible beneficiaries are concerned, 1 in 3 eligible beneficiaries was not issued debt relief certificate. So there is a visible impact on the farmer himself because of these farm loan waivers, because of the fact that it vitiates credit discipline in the rural economy. Mr. Devinder Sharma, how are you going to counter that?
Well, that's what Arundhati Bhattacharya, the State Bank of India chief, had also said. And I don't know, if she has to behave like a joint secretary of the government of India, I have no problems. But I think let's be very clear. She then goes to the finance ministry and says that we need to waive off 4.5 lakh crore of the telecom sector, which is under stress. Now, I don't know how the farmer loan becomes credit indiscipline, what she is recommending for telecom sector is not credit indiscipline. Now, this is very unfortunate. This is how we have been viewing both these sectors. Now, the fact of the matter is that what Mr. Jagannathan said is basically following the same dictum. We are following the same World Bank kind of a thinking. World Bank had said in 1996 that we have to move 400 million people out of agriculture into the urban areas. I want to ask Mr. Jagannathan, where are the jobs in the urban areas? And all that you are promising as jobs, the CII says, will create 300 million jobs in the next 5 years, is basically Dihadi Mazdoor. If Dihadi Mazdoor is what a job creation is, I think we need to look at the entire economics of this country. And this is because, that this is the problem in this country. Why can't we make agriculture more profitable and economically viable? We are keeping agriculture impoverished because we have to provide cheaper food to the people. We want to ensure that the inflation doesn't, raise its head. Now, why are the farmers being penalized to grow food is a question that I want to ask. And it is not the first time they are being penalized. Over last 5 decades, we have been doing it. Systematically, we have been keeping the prices low, not realizing there's somebody who grows that food, what will happen to him? As I said, in half the country, if the farmer's income is 20,000 rupees a year, we should all be ashamed of. It's not agriculture is uneconomical. It's because we have deliberately kept it impoverished because we want to keep food inflation low. My argument is, why don't you pay them direct income support? That's what the country actually needs to pay back to the farmers. After all, he's subsidizing the country. Let's be very clear. Farmer is subsidizing the country. It is not the corporates who are doing it. Corporates are actually a burden on this country. The way they have 55 lakh crore tax exemption is good enough to write off poverty for 110 years. For 110 years, you can write off poverty by 55 lakh crore tax exemption we have given to corporates. We should know that.
I want to take this across to Jagannathan and Jaggi, you know, you made this point about let's move people away from agriculture. These are not productive jobs, and let's put them into some productive jobs. Just to throw some data, we did a discussion on jobs a few days back. Agri jobs are down by 26 million from the period 2011 to 15. Non-farm jobs have risen by 33 million, but the pace of job creation has considerably slowed down. 12 million people are entering the workforce. We are creating 1.4 lakh jobs. Where will those people be absorbed? It's all right to say that, you know, agriculture is not a productive activity. Let's move them away. And put them to do what is the big question.
Yeah, I mean, the two issues are actually interlinked. Let's first look at the agriculture bucket, okay? You got 48% of India's population dependent on agriculture, when agriculture produces 15% of GDP, which means agriculture productivity is 1/3 of its actual contribution to the GDP. That means at least about 30% of the agricultural workforce is excess. And if this can find productive jobs elsewhere, then the problem, agriculture will boom. You don't need to worry about it. Agricultural productivity is boom. Even if the government does not put in the money, individual farmers will grow, they will expand, and they will make the investments. Now, the issue of jobs is a separate one. The reason why we had agitations by Patidars and Marathas and Jats and Gujars, traditional land owning classes which don't opt or usually go for jobs, is because your job engine has gone fat. Now, that is where you need to do that. And I agree with Devendra Sharma ji on one thing, that in the interim, while you find the right job engines to start throwing up millions of new jobs, you need to give income support to farmers. I am completely with him on that. What I am not in favor of is a loan waiver in lieu of that. I think give them the income support that is needed in the short run to support them, while you create those additional jobs by labor reforms, by other kinds of things, by increasing agriculture. Once you increase agriculture produce, the need for other non-agricultural non-farm jobs will automatically increase, because they will all go into services to agriculture. Because a lot of things will happen when you start increasing agricultural productivity. So you don't want to do that. And the reason why politicians are united on this of farm loan waivers, because farm loan waivers can be written off with one stroke of the pen, and somebody can say, I did this. Okay, but if you have to invest consistently for 10 years in agriculture, create the irrigation potential, create the marketing infrastructure, remove the interstate movement restrictions that prevent a farmer from selling his thing, and get rid of the stupid Land Acquisition Act which has no relevance to the market price, and do those things. I think if you do all those things, I think they will automatically get this thing. What you need to do is say that create the right to property as a fundamental right, which went in 1978, so that no farmer is deprived of his land if he does not want to sell it. Once you sell that, once you make that clear, he will automatically get the right market price for his land if it is compulsorily acquired. So many things are there.
Fair enough. Okay, Mohammad Khan, you want to make a quick point? I have a question for Maithili, but Mohammad Khan, you have a point to make.
Very quickly on the Land Acquisition Act, and I have written a book on the subject, so I believe I'm a little qualified to talk on the issue. So the 2013 Act is a historic legislation. It repeals a 112-year-old legislation which gave no rights to farmers. It was a colonial legislation. So the new Land Acquisition Act was hailed by farmers across the country. Its greatest strength, and if you're truly pro-farmer, you would agree with all the farmers who mobilized across the country when this government tried to amend it in 2015, which is the only time they were forced to roll back a legislation because of its complete lack of popularity, and people across the political spectrum united against that. I think the Land Acquisition Act is a fantastic piece of legislation, but I think the government should do more to empower farmers. That's all.
Okay. Land acquisition is a sort of separate debate in itself. I know I don't want to hijack that. Maithili, we're coming in, but I want to add another question, a point that both Jaggi and you were making. And you know, Mr. Devendra Sharma also spoke about the sort of amount of incentives that we give to corporate India. Let's also look at the opportunity cost, because you know it's a simple economic concept of opportunity cost of farm loan waivers. The money that is being spent on farm loan waivers: Uttar Pradesh 36,000 crores, Maharashtra 30,000 crores, Punjab 20,000 crores, Rajasthan 20,000 crores, Punjab 10,000 crores, Karnataka 8,167 crores. This is money that could have otherwise been invested in public infrastructure specifically for the rural economy, right? I mean, this is the so when the government, you know, you have to, you know, you have to balance your budget somehow. So if you're spending this money in a farm loan waiver, you have to cut back on something. You can't cut back on paying salaries to government employees, or you can't cut back on your interest obligations. So what you cut back on is capital expenditure.
Absolutely, there is no free lunch, and what Davinder does not seem to get is that what Jaggi and I both agree that the farmers need to be supported, but a loan waiver is not the way to support them. You need to support them in other ways. That money can be spent on public infrastructure in the rural areas, creating roads, bridges, irrigation canals. The government's job is that of a facilitator. You remove the export bans, you allow stock holding limits, do away with that, and the enormous nexus between providing free water, free power and assured procurement, which only benefits the larger farmers. Do away with all of that. Let market forces come into play in the agricultural sector, and where there are some farmers who are genuinely poor, then do a targeted income support along with a universal crop insurance scheme. The thing to do is to, yes, the farming community needs support, but a loan waiver is not the way to support them. In fact, it works against their interests, and that, I think, is something that Davinder must be able to understand, because after all, he, assumes, is a reasonable person and sees what is the opportunity cost of these farm loan waivers. This is money that could be much better spent for the farmers themselves in other areas, and that could have a multiplier effect, whereas this is just a short-term band-aid which helps nobody, including the farmers.
Okay, you know, let's turn focus and talk about the big picture of these farm loan waivers. And Hitesh Jain, you are somebody who understands numbers. What do the farm loan waivers do as far as state government's own fiscal positions are concerned? I mean, brokerage report after brokerage report, analyst after analyst, economist after economist has said it's all right for the center to say we're not going to foot the bill, the banks will not foot the bill, the state government has to. And that brings me to my larger question. Can India make its peace with the fact that the central government may get to a 3% fiscal deficit, but they'll be ballooning fiscal deficits at the level of states? Can we at all afford that? First Uday and now this.
I was going to talk about Uday.
I'll come to you.
Well, two things. This is a debate which has got many sides. And there cannot be a perfect solution or perfect answer when the debate has many sided, because I think everyone is now building around the consensus that farmer needs the support. Now, I mean, what form the support should be, that is we are discussing. Now, as far as loan waiver is concerned, now I will go one step further. Now, as far as corporates are concerned, you can speak about insolvency and bankruptcy code and all. Assuming farmer is unable to pay the loan, now what are you going to do? Are you going to take the steps? I mean, are you going to take the coercive steps, or what are you going to do? So therefore, my personal view is that you cannot have recurring farm loan waiver. This is the first time looking at the extraordinary situation of last 3 years. I think this case has been made out, but according to me, how we will be judged should be as to what are the steps we are going to take to protect to make sure, for example, the Prime Minister has given a commitment to double the income of the farmers by 2022, and he's the government has taking the steps on the mission mode to ensure the welfare of the farmer and the agriculture sector, so as to achieve the only target, one of the important target that has been put by 2022, the farmer's income has to be double, and that will also make an economic sense, because if farmer's income is going to double, A, there will be no case of loan waiver in the future, and B, it will give a very good numbers also in terms of economy. Okay. So we have to look from that perspective. I think give us 2-3 years, we are building the ecosystem, and we will ensure that we will put in such a system that in future there will be no need to give any farm loan waiver. This will be like a one-time solution so that we can address the crisis that the farmers are facing today.
You know, Hitesh Jain, the problem is that one-time solution is what Palaniappan Chidambaram said in 2008 as well, when the UPA government announced these farm loan waivers. It never is a one-time solution. It's an easy solution.
Well,
it's a band-aid.
It's a band-aid
that is readily available, and you
for 9 years. So we inherited, but we have to also acknowledge. We have inherited a system where after providing the labor, providing the waiver, they were putting doles after doles, putting a burden on the economy. Okay. All their Manrega was bogus. People were just being offered the money. It was like how we have linked
okay, fair enough. Hitesh, and you made your point.
And other things. So that is the reason we are in this situation.
Well, further, can I reply to
okay, Mohammad Khan wants to come in. Mohammad, it's your turn, but I want to just slip in one question, which is, again, I don't want to digress too much from the substantive issues that we're discussing here. And another point that I think Maithili made as well, which is on how banks will end up cutting their exposure to districts where, there have been a lot of beneficiaries of farm loan waivers. It's, because it vitiates the credit cycle, what it in turn does is, in the medium to long run, availability of credit comes down as well, because banks turn a lot more cautious, and probably rightly so, because they start fearing, will the farmer go and default on the next loan as well?
Okay, I'm going to give a quick chance for Mohammad Khan to come in on the point that he was making. Hitesh Jain, Mohammad, go ahead, make your point, because I do want to move on to the other parts of this debate, and that has to do with the trend and alternatives.
I want to make them very, very quickly. Financial inclusion has been a major challenge in rural areas. People in rural areas simply don't have access to formal sources of credit. That was one of the things that we tried to achieve when we, as the BJP representative correctly reminded us, when we instituted the direct benefit transfer scheme. We also came up with incentives for banks to open up branches there, along with mobile ATMs, a scheme that I believe this government should have pursued, but instead they went with cosmetic measures of opening zero balance accounts. I will not offer any editorial content on that. It's there for anyone to see. The second point I want to make is about Manrega. The BJP representative again said, oh, you ran doles like Manrega. Sir, you're echoing your Prime Minister when he said the same thing on the floor of Parliament in 2014. However, in 2017, your Prime Minister has done a U-turn. He claims, proudly so, that they are now giving the largest amount under Manrega. They've revived it. Because what you fail to realize is Manrega is a market intervention. It supports people when they have no other means of employment. It guarantees them over 100 days of work. And the third and final point I want to make is this. Look, you have to stop changing the goalposts. In 2014, it was 2 years hence. Now it's 2022. The fact is, you've been elected to lead, not campaign endlessly. I suggest you get down to doing that now.
Before I throw this to Sandeep, I want to make a quick point. He's not his Prime Minister, he's all our Prime Minister, and your Vice President admits that on foreign soil. Sandeep, you take it away.
Okay, fair enough. But let's move away from the politics of this. We have little time and a lot more ground to cover, and talk about alternatives to farm loan waiver. Maithili and Jaggi, both of you agree with some of the points that Mr. Devinder Sharma is making very passionately on the debate this evening. And I think let's spend some time looking at solutions to farm loan waivers. So I'm going to come to you, Maithili, first, and then to Jaggi, and then ask Mr. Devinder Sharma if he believes that they will work better than a farm loan waiver. Maithili, you go first.
Well, yes, I'm strongly in favor of something like a crop insurance, even if it is funded out of taxpayer money. That is far, far better than a complete blanket loan waiver, because as I said, this vitiates credit culture and does damage both at the micro and at the macro level. So apart from a universal crop insurance, what you need to do is increase public investment in the rural areas. A rural road which gets the farmer to the market can have far more empowering effect on the farmer than anything like a farm loan waiver. So rural roads, rural irrigation, warehouses, cold storage chains, removing the current stocking limits that you have on farmers, the ENAM initiative which has been started, that should be kind of scaled up in a much, much bigger way. Remove the export bans you currently impose. The moment prices of agricultural commodities rise internationally or domestically, you impose a ban. Do away with those bans. Let the farmer access the market. Let him access opportunities for profit. At the same time, remove the distortions both on the input and on the output side. Today, you're giving him free water, free power, subsidized seeds, subsidized fertilizers. As a result, the cropping pattern is completely altered. In Punjab, you're growing basmati rice in an area where you should not be growing basmati rice, precisely because you've been sending wrong market signals, leading to soil salination, drop in water table, and a whole host of other problems. So do away with this, do away with the assured procurement, because that again benefits only the larger farmers. So allow market forces to function wherever they can function, and only where they cannot function, where there's market failure, there the state should step in.
Okay, the state should step in only when there is a requirement and not at the first cost. But insurance, irrigation, roads, warehouses, stocking limits is some of the things on Maithili's bucket list. What's on yours, Jaggi?
See, to all that is obviously has to be done. I think the cold chain and the ability of the farmer to sell in advance is very, very important. He needs a forward market in which he can sell his crop before he has to go to. Currently, see what happens. He looks at some mandi prices which he gets to know from somewhere. He packs all his stuff in his cart and runs all the way from 40 kilometers away to deliver it. And 50 other farmers have landed up at the same time to sell at the mandi. So what he would have got 10 rupees for earlier, he suddenly gets only 2 rupees for. And then he goes and commits suicide. And this is exactly what has happened at a place like Mandsaur. Suddenly a whole lot of people come. So a farmer cannot remove something and to go to the market and then find that the prices have crashed. He has to be able to sell it before he reaches the market, which means government must produce a cold chain which allows him to keep his crop where it is, where he can sell it before he actually moves his crop around. This is a very basic thing that is not getting done, and these are the things we need to do. And if we can do these kind of things, I think the farmer will be okay. And over a period of time, there must be a steady plan to reduce the number of uneconomic farms. You give them income support in the meanwhile, make sure, skill them in other things and try and create alternate jobs either in the rural sector or elsewhere, but that's the way to go. You can't keep having the same rigmarole of waivers and suicides again and again.
All right, Devinder Sharma, we've probably got a dozen sort of alternatives from two of our experts. You know, give us more time, we'll come up with 50. But do any of them cut eyes, and do you think fundamentally, is it time for us to think in this direction instead of looking at the sort of band-aid solution of a farm loan waiver?
I completely agree that, you know, band-aid solution is not the solution, but in the given condition, that's the only way forward. Now, having said that, what actually we require in agriculture, of course, the list, as you rightly said, can be 50 now. But let me make it 1 or 2 points very clear. You know, if you look at the investment that, you know, which goes by way of farm loan waiver to be made for rural infrastructure, I completely agree that rural infrastructure needs investment. But let me make it very clear. If that 55 lakh crore tax exemption we gave it to corporates was instead not given and that was invested in infrastructure, urban infrastructure, everyone would have gained. Why did we do that? We are very clever. When we come to corporate sector, we defend everything that we've given them, the largest we've given them. But when it comes to farmers, we have all solutions for the poor farmer. Secondly, if you look at the farm loan waiver problem, the Standing Parliamentary Committee, which gave a report till 2017 March, has very clearly said that out of the 7 lakh crore odd outstanding loan, 70% belongs to corporates. And even the poor farmer with such a low earning, only 1% is his bad loan. So imagine how much 70% for that class of the section society, which is the most pampered in this country. If there is one section which is most pampered, it is the corporates of India. They are highly subsidized. In fact, they thrive on subsidies. I can give you a list of subsidies they thrive on. Now, the bigger question that comes up, what needs to be done? Let me make it very clear. Punjab is the football of the country. Punjab has the infrastructure, the rural roads and so on and so forth. You will be surprised, Punjab has 98% assured irrigation. No country in the world has 98% assured irrigation. Right. Even America has only 11.4% assured irrigation. And you know, if you look at Punjab, the productivity is the highest in the world for cereal crops. And yet farmers are dying. Punjab has become a hotspot of farmer suicide. The problem actually lies in not denying farmers his rightful income. If we had given farmers the right income, there would have been no crisis. So let us not move to other, divert attention to other kinds of 20 things like cold storage and all. Let's give farmer his income. Today the farmer needs his income. Stop all these tax exemption and the write-offs for corporates. Please do that because they don't need any write-offs. All write-offs should be for farmers. Waive off the loans of the farmers. Give them a direct income support. They will do the rest.
Okay. So let the corporates go. And, let the sector go under, just do stuff for the farmer. That's a binary debate, sir. I choose to disagree with you. But Hitesh Jain, I'm going to ask you the more political question. And I think it's Bank of America Merrill Lynch which has today put... Okay. Yes, I do actually. I do exercise my right to disagree with my panel sometimes. But Hitesh Jain, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, I think has, raised a concern which in a lot of ways mirrors popular perception, popular concern otherwise as well. It says that in a run-up to 2019, we will perhaps see a whole host of states take this step and maybe the central government as well. The fear is, will 2008 repeat itself in 2019?
Well, I don't really think so. 2008 repeating, it's too pessimistic approach. The fundamentals of the economy are strong. We had two major events, and now you can see the numbers of after the GST collections and everything. I think this is it's one report, but there are a lot of other reports. For example, the JP Morgan has presented a different kind of report. Yesterday, there are some other bankers. They have come with a very optimistic report. So I think it is like one report against another report. But having said that, I must compliment today the channel and the panelists for being constructive, and the experts also for coming up with instead of like against against mine or right against wrong. Today the debate has been very constructive, and I'm sure we will be looking at the suggestions that have been made by the experts in the interest of the farming community and also in the interest of the economy. And I think if we are able to achieve, if we are able to take the best of the steps that have been suggested, I think in future we will not see any case for a loan waiver.
Okay, we all look forward to the day when there is no case for a loan waiver. But, in the spirit of the point that that Hitesh Jain made, Mohammad Khan, what does the Congress believe needs to be done over the next, the government has set itself a very, 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 I can't stress enough, ambitious target of doubling farm income by 2022, because that essentially means that the agriculture sector has to grow at a pace of 15%, which seems unrealistic right now. So Mohammad Khan, in your view, what does the Congress believe needs to be done for farm income to be doubled, or do you think it's something that we won't get to in 5 years?
Well, this government doesn't have any problem making tall promises. It's when it comes to delivering them that they face challenges, evidently. I would say this, I find that the government's approach to the rural economy is extremely tertiary. I think it comes as an afterthought in most cases. The fact that Manrega is a good example. You abandoned it in 2014, realized its value 2 years hence, because you realize the rural sector is much more complicated than giving people zero balance accounts. I also feel that they should now see the economy is, as someone very rightly pointed out, it's an entire machine and everyone's a part of it, right? So unless you get the economic engine running again, and I believe Mr. Jain's points was premised on a fundamentally incorrect fact, the economy has lost 2 percentage points. We're looking at a terrible time. I don't know where the money will come from, but they'll have to prioritize spending in rural areas.
Okay. Jaggi, I'll let you have a quick last word. I think I have time for one final question. I'll have you a quick last word there. Credit discipline versus the misery on our farms. It's also important to point out here that some experts have also raised the concerns that 40% of Indian farmers don't want to be in agriculture, and that's a pitiable situation because that also threatens food security in many ways. But in a run-up to 2019, will politics overtake all economic concerns? That's a big concern around the table.
Unfortunately, when you have super competitive, super aggressive rivalry in politics, you will only get bad economics. But to take a broader point, I think if Devendra Sharma, if he is right and he says the average farmer is earning only 20,000 rupees a year, I think doubling that income is the easiest thing to do. We just stop all farm subsidies, stop all farm rovers, and the farmer's average income will at least triple. You just give him the cash. Instead of doing that, you will probably do that better. So I don't think this figure is right. It is probably a distribution that may be quite different. I think we have to keep promoting investment in farming and agriculture and not do write-offs. That is the fundamental shift. That thing we probably, if necessary, we should have a special parliament session where all parties agree that from henceforth you will not do, and you will follow these policies, and any state which breaks this code will be denied central funds. If you have a special session where all parties bind themselves to do this, then you might move forward. But otherwise, you're only going to get competitive lunacy, and that's exactly what you're getting right now.
All right. On that note, I'm afraid we're completely out of time. Thank you so much, Jaggi, Maithili, Devendra Sharma, Mohammad Khan and Hitesh Jain for joining us on this constructive debate on Waive the Waiver. I can tell you we will do a lot of debates and discussions on the rural economy and what needs to be done by the political class to ease the stress on the farmer, because the farmer just cannot be forgotten. It should worry all of us when 40% of farmers are unhappy in India and would want to move out of farming, that many believe threatens India's food security.
Indeed it does, but throwing good money behind bad isn't an option either. Farm loan may be a quick fix, but it won't make India's farms productive, and it certainly will not pull the farmer out of his misery. VITT now strongly assert, waive the waiver and take more sustainable steps to fix our farms. It's been a pleasure being with you. Up next is Top 10 at 10.